Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan, and the July 4th weekend is practically upon us. We are going to do the second part of our two-part Eagles contract series. Last episode, we focused mostly on the offense, really, and Jalen Hurts, and we discussed some guys who would be up for extensions after the year and what that would look like. We discussed the marketplace at certain positions. And now we will switch gears and do the same thing for defense. Some pretty interesting names we're going to go through that might necessarily be on, the top of your forehead there about guys who would get contract extensions. But we'll talk about it and we'll get into it. And it's July 4th weekend. So if you're headed down the shore, or if you're headed up to the Poconos, or if you're going to stay home and light the barbecue up, have a few people over, be by the pool, this is the perfect pod to just have playing in the background to, we can be your elevator music, except way more exciting, way more insightful.
Yeah, look, people have taught us that they in past years they've listened to us on the beach, so we love that. We love it. We won't keep you too long, but the purpose of these shows are to go over the players that the Eagles could potentially extend. As you said, offense was the first show, which we did earlier this week. Today's Thursday morning. We're going to do defense. Only two players on this one, but they're extremely important, which we've hinted at. These guys could get extensions even this year. We'll explain to kind of what the landscape looks like. We also went over in that show that we did on Monday, the defensive players that got extended last year and the offensive players got extended last year, what those deals look like.
Correct.
But this one is a little bit easier to project because you could fit in by these numbers that we have here of the guys who already got extended around the league. You could kind of see where Hargrave will fit in, Slay will fit in. But they also have to play well. For instance, let's say they don't get extended this season. If you don't play as well, you're not going to get that type of deal, which we're going to talk about. But they have to keep playing as well as they have. And obviously, Slay and Hargrave are really good football players.
Definitely those two. I have a few others I wanted to throw in there as in, what do we make of them just because they have some interesting contracts that we'll get into in the middle of this podcast. We've got a lot of stuff up on InsideTheBirds.com. Andrew DeCecco has been doing an excellent job of doing a 2022 offseason recap. So he's got several stories on the website. Please check it out, InsideTheBirds.com. The newsletter will be out a little later today, because it's Thursday for most who listen to this when it first comes out. The newsletter will be out today. We made some changes, trying to make it look as attractive as possible and be as one-stop shopping for ITB stuff as much as you can get. So everything gets funneled into the newsletter. So please continue to check it out. Tell your friends to subscribe. Our subscribers are growing on that. And speaking of growing subscribers, Adam, we just hit 11,000 subscribers on YouTube. So we want to say thanks to everybody who has subscribed. And if you haven't yet, if you're a big watcher of Inside the Birds material on YouTube, but have not yet clicked that subscribe button, please take a second to do so and leave some comments. It really helps us. And we're just really proud of our listener base, our fan base, and how we've been able to grow that YouTube channel. And it feels, Adam, like we've had it for since we started this thing 5 years ago, but it's really about 2 years old, as far as really posting content regularly on it.
We started 2 years ago at the Super Bowl, just after it. Really, it was right around the start of the pandemic. We started hitting this.
Yeah.
And obviously, we having the pregame show with Avant and Cosell, that's part of it. And a lot of people subscribe just to be on there to watch that show. But they've stayed on because, in fact, we're able to see through analytics, man, we haven't had a lot of drop off, which is cool. YouTube, you just never know kind of what people want. You and I have talked about this weeks ago where some podcasts I actually just watch on YouTube. I don't go to Apple.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is. It's just, I don't know. I don't know why I do that. I can't quite explain it.
You're everyone a voyeur, has that's why you got to see it with your eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that I like when someone gets excited, I want to see what their face is like. What if they're pissed off? I want to see it. I don't know. There's just something about YouTube I can't quite explain. To me, it's sort of in a weird, odd way old school. I don't know. I don't know. You don't have to download anything. So well, you can, I guess, through YouTube, but I don't know. I just like going to YouTube.
I want to see a video of somebody like a really hardcore, passionate Eagles fan watching Inside the Birds and see if it's kind of like, you remember that game at the end of the 20 season when Doug Peterson took out Jalen Hurts against Washington, put in Nate Sudfeld, and because the Eagles lost that game, Giants fans were all up in their feelings, man. And there was a video of one guy, I think, like taking his TV or punching a hole in the wall or knocking his TV. It was hysterical, and I'm like, it got me thinking. You know, somebody who's watching our show and may not agree with what we say. Do they punch holes?
Sure.
Do they stick their middle fingers up at us while they're watching? Do they throw tomatoes out? Hey, I'd watch it. Why not? Sure.
So, yeah. Well, maybe there's a way. I wish. Well, wait a minute. Can't we? We've talked about this before. Like, can't we somehow bring? We may have to. You know what we can do? We could do the Twitter Spaces where you can't see them, but you can hear people.
Yeah,
you just join in, and you know. I've
never done a Twitter Space, so I don't.
I've never done it, but I've attended them.
I'm actually afraid of it. I'm afraid of it.
I'm
afraid of anything that like puts you on live in real time, and you might not be prepared for it. Like I got a lot of things going on in my house, and you know.
Right? Yeah, you know that's true because it's funny. My wife's away, and I'm taking care of my dog this week. I was doing a radio interview earlier this week, and I forgot to shut the door to my little studio here, and she was barking like crazy. And you know, the one as you know, the thing you learn about radio is make sure you're in a quiet space. And I had apologized. I said, "Look, I screwed up. I'm sorry." And they were laughing. It wasn't so bad you couldn't do the interview, but it was actually distracting me. I was like, come on. So I actually got up because they couldn't see me, and I just shut the door. Anyway.
Right. Well, my kids are a little older now, so I don't really worry about too many things. But I'm definitely like sort of scarred, although it's become kind of a cool slice of life that everybody remembers. But I think during the start of the pandemic, or maybe even before that, if you remember, there was a very famous interview a man was doing, I believe, from his home on Zoom with BBC, the British Broadcasting Company. Literally in the background, you see the door open, like a little infant walk in, and then the mom like, oh my God, freak out, race in, grab and this is all like commotion going on. And he's sitting there talking about, I don't know, like the average of the American dollar versus the British dollar, something like completely economical or even geopolitical, and completely like maybe he doesn't even know what's going on in the background, but it's hysterical. But I've always had like some fear, like, man, if I do something live, is like my house gonna burn out? Is this thing gonna fall down on my head?
Oh,
I don't know.
Have you ever had, because you were on television for a while on Comcast Sportsnet, did you ever have anything go wrong on when you were doing TV for them?
Probably nothing so noticeable that I remember when you do pregame from the link from the end zone, it can be difficult when you got like the early drunks coming in and filling up the stadium, yelling at you.
Are they screaming at you?
It can be difficult. I mean, people think because you got like a little thing in your ear that it blocks out no, it doesn't really. It's just a little voice that might have to say something to you. But you know, there's some obscenities that are flying. There's some people making like, you know, funny faces. So you got to like kind of keep your calm as you're doing it. Exactly. Oh, wait, there is something.
Okay.
Y'all have to hit up Derek Gunn on social media for it. But D Gunn likes to play a little game with people who he's doing a shot with, a TV shot with. You know, he likes to pull a sneak attack, I'll call it. He might like to jab you a little bit in a certain area right before you're about to go on camera. And let's just say you're fair game. All right. He's trying to create a blooper. And at the end of the year, well, I don't know if they still do it. I mean, God, Comcast is or NBC Sports Philly is so different now, but they made like a little blooper highlight that they would play at the annual Christmas party. And several victims, including myself, of Gunner's little prank would be up there like, you know, like you just caught one from a little elbow or a little prodding from Gunner. And that would make it onto the Christmas video.
It's hard. It's hard because so mine is similar but different. No one did this to me; it just happened. something fell. So I was doing Sports Center, I don't know, 2015. And
Uh-huh.
I'd always ask for advice because I was sort of, I'd done television locally, making appearances Comcast Sports Center, wherever, but doing live television on Sports Center, it's spontaneous. You only get you get like 3 minutes, four minutes. So I'd asked around like, okay, how do you handle this? Just pointers. And I remember saying, well, what if something happens like spontaneously? Just keep going. Don't worry about it. I think Trey Wingo said that. Well, long story short,
a commercial about that, like the whole place was on fire and they're just still doing the
yeah,
show.
Right. Well, okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. A light, a small light hit the back of my head. It stunned me, but I kept going because they tell you on television, just keep going.
Oh, you mean like the light fell and hit your head?
Right. Yeah, it hit the back of my head, grazed it, and hit my shoulder and hit the floor. It was a small light though. It wasn't like a ton. Or it was either a light or a piece of a light.
Uh-huh.
And I went along because this is what they told you. I always ask around if people know what the hell they're doing. And like, what do you do? How do you handle it? Because I had 1,000 questions when I started there. Like, how do you handle this? How do you handle that?
Yeah.
Because there's no guide, as you know, that when you work in radio TV, you just kind of wing it. You learn from your mistakes and you correct them.
Right.
And I just remember being like, okay, why did this happen? Did I do okay? They said, no, you did great. You kept going with it. Are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. It didn't bother me. It was funny. I was like, how the hell does this happen?
Well,
someone planned that.
We did have a spontaneous moment happen during this is a perfect segue, by the way, because I wanted to give our listeners a little bit of an idea of what's to come on ITV. But last year during our pregame show at Rivers, right, we had a dude just randomly walk. Like, we have the hope, if you don't know, our set was at their restaurant, Jack's restaurant, and it's cordoned off. Like, you have to like work for the show to be in there. But once the show starts, it's not like we got a lot of security standing out there. And some dude just kind of walks behind the set, starts talking to Avant. Cosell can't keep it straight. You said you got to just kind of go with the flow. Cosell just starts cracking up. I'm like, hey, how you doing?
This guy literally just walked in aimlessly. He had no idea where he was going. I don't think he was drunk. He just walked onto our set. And we all looked like, okay, this guy's not supposed to be here. What the hell? No, we just were laughing though.
Let's just say I hope he was drunk, because if he wasn't drunk, then I don't know what he was doing.
Well, he was looking around like he was in space. He's like, it wasn't as though he knew he was in the wrong place. He just tried to figure out where he was.
Yeah.
I was like, could somebody get him the hell out of here? Anyway.
Yeah, I know. And if he had stayed any longer, we'd have to get his name, address, and give him royalties for whatever we
he'd have to show. He'd have to get. No, that's true, because if you're on television a certain amount of hours, you have to get it. You have to be on a SAG member. On being on the league on FX.
Mm-hmm.
If John Hanson and we taped this in the fall of 2010. If we were on like another show, because it would put us over the hours, we would had to get a SAG card. So stupid. Like, we're not actors.
That's great. I want my SAG card. I should have got one when I was at Comcast. I don't know what happened there.
I was on TV plenty. See, that's a great question, because but again, I don't know. I don't know what the rules are for network television. Maybe some television people are watching. Anyway.
So good stuff. So as we were saying, we are working diligently on doing some added material for Inside the Birds coming up this fall season. Obviously, we'll have a pregame show, which we believe is the best pregame show, and our listeners and our viewers have give us that feedback. Best pregame show you can watch. And honestly, with all the changes going on in the marketplace, I think we're going to be even better, and probably the number one pregame show in the market. So we've had Greg Cosell, Jason Avant, Trey Thomas, Quentin Michael, Baldy's been on the show. The beauty of our show for our new listeners is it's a no BS show. It's all X's and O's. It's hard news. We don't sit there and sometimes these the networks, and they like go into all these fancy angles and cute stuff and bulletin board material. Now we don't. Screw that. We just talk football, man. We break it down with real people who watch tape, who understand the game better than anyone else. Real analysts. So we're going to, and it's 2 hours of full analysis. So we'll be doing that again. But we're also working on, Adam, as you know, we'll tell people without getting into details until everything's signed and all that and agreed upon. But we are working on bringing a post-game show for Inside the Birds for the first time ever. So looking forward to doing that this upcoming season.
Real quick, the let's just say the atmosphere will be really cool, and I probably will be involved in doing something at this venue. I think.
Well, you're definitely going to be.
There's
involved,
some kind of athletics you could get into there. I'll give you that's a small hint.
Little hint there.
Yeah,
and then of course,
this is really cool.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say this is really cool. We're gonna have a post game show, and we're also gonna do our pregame show at a casino. We hope to be back at Rivers, but we know other casinos are interested in us, so we love doing that. That was great. It was at Jack's, as you said, and it could not have been more perfect. I mean, it was like every week we'd say, how does this get better? Like, because Jason and Greg were so great, and the comments were so like people were like blown away by their analysis. And the great thing is they set up what would happen. Like, okay, here's how they saw the game happening, and it would happen.
Yes, it was pretty
cool.
It would be great. And now we have the ability with a post-game show to kind of re-illustrate what happened, why it happened, and talk and go back to what we said during the pregame show. So really looking forward to that. And then, of course, as most people know, we've done some stuff Monday through Friday, Monday radio station show. Do we do anything other than Monday? No, it's usually Monday unless we had to move it, but we're going to try to bring some more Inside the Birds material to you that's separate from the podcast between Monday and Friday. So we'll get further into it as we hammer it out, but we want to be a little bit more omnipresent from Monday to Friday outside of just the podcast that we do.
Sure.
So looking forward to doing that too. And also some of this will involve other people, hopefully some former Eagles, and looking forward to getting everybody involved there. So with that being said, let's get into the podcast. Adam, first, of course, as we've been telling you, if you find yourself fumbling in the bedroom, you're not alone. Millions of men will experience some form of ED, and it can feel deflating. So maybe you're like us and you've tried pills or diets or exercise, but we found something clinically proven to help you get back in the game. Just meet Eddie, a discreet device designed to help you strengthen and maintain your erection so you can break through the O-line again. Pills can be expensive. They've got a long-term side effect. So we've checked out EddieByGiddy.com and found that over 95% of men experience positive results wearing Eddie, according to a 2021 clinical trial. So grab life by the balls and stop getting sacked by ED. Sign up for a subscription at buyeddy.com/insidethebirds. Save 20% on your first device using promo code IB20. That's the letter I, the letter B, and the number 20, with free device resizes and a 60-day guarantee. You'll be glad you tried it. Treat ED with Eddie at buyeddy.com/insidethebirds. All right, back to some contract talk we go, Adam. So obviously, this is a guy we've talked about a lot. You mentioned him in the prelude there, Javon Hargrave, which to me, it's sort of a no-brainer. Obviously, he's enters the third year of a 3-year deal. He has been a success with 7.5 sacks last year, Pro Bowler, 4 sacks the year before, which is still good for an interior tackle, but we know that he was slowed by the injury. And with the rising rate of defensive tackles, Adam, especially good ones, again, it would make sense to me. We've talked about this. Get him extended now, maybe on another 3-year deal. It's hard to believe this would be his third contract. His next contract will be his third contract, but he just turned 29. So just because it's the third contract doesn't mean you got to be like approach it with the normal caution that you would normally approach for a 3-year deal or a third-year contract. But I also wouldn't give him 7 years. I think 3 or 4 or a structure of 3 would be good for them to do. And I would say it'd be smart to do it now instead of waiting until the end of the year.
He was other than Aaron Donald for the first 6 games last season, he was a top pressure with how teams evaluate. Sacks are more of a fan stat. Pressures is what they're looking for. His pressure numbers were off the hook, and plus the tape. We all know that. Hargrave was playing out of his mind. He was it was kind of like, wow, okay, now we really, because as you said, he was hurt. He had 2 different injuries in the training camp of his first year that curtailed the first half of his first year, got better later, and then he had a breakout season and so forth. Now, did he? I wouldn't say he faded in the second half. He just could not play up to that unbelievable level in the first half.
Right. Also saw a lot more double teams too. In the second half.
Sure. He's a really good football player, and he's got scheme versatility. No matter what they play, he can play it. So that helps. And so that 3-year deal that he signed was $39 million, $13 million a year. The full guarantee at signing was just under $26 million. That was a great deal that Drew Rosenhaus did. I remember when you put it out on a show that the Eagles had interest in, and I'm like, Javon Hargrave, really? Does he fit this scheme? He sure as hell does.
Yeah.
He's using 34, but not every 34 is the same.
Yeah. And you can also argue that he fits the scheme more so now than when they signed him for that last year of Jim Schwartz's defense. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no. Well, he's not the biggest guy in terms of height, but he was super explosive coming out of South Carolina State. And he just was a really good story of development for Pittsburgh. And he got a market deal. The Steelers were not the Eagles were not the only team involved.
Right.
But this one got done literally the first day of free agency in 2020. And this one now, see, the Eagles have to look at their cap situation. Not that the cap is a big deal anymore, but if they have just over $7 million now, this is without the Tart deal being added to their contracts, so it'll be less than $7 million. And the Tart deal, as we put out last week, will be 1 year. Once it gets signed, is 1 year up. It's similar to Anthony Harris, up to $2.5 million. The structure's a little different in terms of the guarantees, but the fact of the matter is, if they think they need more cap space, it would behoove them to do this now. Then do what they do is that'll give him more cap space at the end of the season, because pretty much we'll get to the other player who could get extended. But as you know, in the CBA, this got put in like 20 years ago. Any unused cap space, you could move it to the next year. That's a trick that the Eagles have used for years.
Right. What's the date? What's the week for that? It's as long as you're about week 12, I think.
No. To move it?
To be able to put the caps.
I thought it was at the end of the season, but we could certainly find out.
No, I thought there was, unless they've changed the rules, which is always possible because they do. Right. There used to be, it was like 3/4 of the way through the season where you had the ability to put any new money from an extension into that year's.
I see what
contract.
You're saying.
But then after a certain time, you couldn't.
Oh, okay. No, but I was just talking about moving excess.
Okay. I got you. Rolling over. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But there is also a time period, which is, it's usually helpful for players who play premium positions like quarterback or defensive end, but tackle is up there. Like the Seahawks did this with Russell Wilson, I believe, when they gave him his extension. It was still on the 4th year of his second round pick deal, which was only like a couple $100,000, right? And then they took all that new money, well, not all of it, a big chunk of it, and put it into that year, the 4th year, last year of his deal, so that when the extension started the next year, the cap was lower because a lot of the new money was pushed into the year before, if that makes sense to people listening. But so yeah, there's always a time you can do that at the NFL calendar where you can still count money toward this year's cap.
Yes,
so,
yeah, because
but this is a situation where I don't know if it, like, do you need to see more, or do you need? I got it with Alshon Jeffrey. They signed him to a 1-year deal. He had the PED suspension. He had injuries. They wanted to see they got him on a 1-year deal. And 10 weeks into the season, they were like, yeah, this is the real Alshon Jeffrey for us, so we're going to give him an extension. I mean, what does Javon Hargrave have to do?
He doesn't have to prove anything. He showed, and plus, he signed such a short-term deal, and he had leverage, clearly. That the key here was he was a true unrestricted free agent, so Rosenhaus had leverage to do a short-term deal. And agents now are trying to get 3 or 4-year deals. When we get to some of these deals, particularly corner, when we look at Slay, you saw some players take 5-year deals, but they have a higher APY, which means average per year, average per season. So there's always a trade-off. Like Terry McLaurin, right, who just did his deal earlier this week. His APY is lower than AJ Brown, but he only did a 3-year deal instead of a 4-year deal. Right. So there's always a trade-off.
Right. All right. I'm trying to figure out what month it was remember when the Eagles traded for Tim Jernigan? They wound up swapping picks with the Ravens. They got Jernigan, who was on the last year of his deal. And then they gave him an extension. I think it was in November. They gave him an extension in November because he had played so well that first year with the Eagles.
Did?
Yes.
Did? Okay.
But again, like, that's a new player that was introduced to the system. I think he had some things going on in Baltimore. They just wanted to make sure that he was the Tim Jernigan that they were trading for. And then they gave him the contract, probably again, right before that deadline where you can store the money in the last year, because it was in November. So, but again, with Jernigan, you've had him here for 2 years. You know what he is. You've seen him improve. The closer he gets to free agency, and he's only got this coming year, the more his price tag, theoretically, the more you give him the reason to say, you know what, I'm just going to play this thing out and see how I do in free agency.
Great point.
Yeah,
it's a great point, because you don't want to have to franchise him. You can always do that.
Right.
And there'll be some challenges for franchise tags depending on it. Just as you said, if a lot of these guys blow it up, the guys are up for extensions. You only get one tag, transition or franchise. So you have to make a decision. Now, on your Jernigan point, yeah, you're right. They late in the Super Bowl year 2017, they saw enough because they made the trade in April before the draft that year.
Right.
Saw enough. They gave him a 4-year extension worth $12 million a year. Wow, Timmy Jernigan, who was never a great pass rusher, nice player.
No, he actually came off the field on pass rush downs, and Brandon Graham would move inside.
Boy, they love that. They love that rotation, man. They have for years. But
yeah, they did.
That was 4 years, $48 million. Now his career, you remember, he had the unfortunate off the field situation where he got hurt.
Yeah,
and the unfortunate part about it was like I think it was the off season after the Super Bowl. It was the 2018 off season. He got hurt. Then he went on NFI that year, which is non-football injury. And boy, his career went down the tubes after that, and he's out of football. Yeah. He turns just 31 in September.
That's too bad. I really enjoyed watching. You're right. He wasn't a great pass rusher. He's a good first, second down player, but he got after it, man. He got after the football. He could go sideline to sideline for a big guy, and that off-field stuff really hurt him, and had to redo his contract. He just wasn't the same player. But you're also right in that Rosenhaus got him a great deal for someone who really was just a 2-down player. Get $12 million annually, right, on that contract.
Yeah.
So what would an extension theoretically look like for Javon Hargrave based on what the marketplace looks like right now?
All right, this one is a lot easier to figure out. In fact, both Slay and Hargrave were based on the current market as you set it up. That's exactly where there are spots where you could fit them in. So Hargrave right now is making $13 million a year, right? The next group of players, because it goes from there are a bunch of guys in the 13 million range, and then it jumps to almost 17 million. Grady Jarrett just did one. Now he did a short-term deal, but for just under 17 million a year, 16.82 million. He's 29 years old. See, this is
one of my
why
favorite players, by the way. I have to
really good.
One of my favorite players in the NFL to watch.
Yeah, he's a great story of development for the Falcons. And see, this is why it's smarter. You take a little bit less than on the APY. Take a 3-year deal instead of a 4-year deal. I see. To me, it's how quickly can I get out of the deal and then get another deal. So to me, this is where he comes in. The 4 contracts 3 or 4 contracts we're going to go over here. Kenny Clark, who just signed his last year with the Packers, 4 for 70, which is. Let me see Kenny Clark's deal. The APY.
That's about $17 million a year, right?
Yeah. His is
430. That's about 17 and a half.
Yeah, 17 and a half million, 17.5 million a year. That's a very fair deal. He's a good nose tackle, very athletic nose tackle.
Yeah.
Been a great story of development for the Packers.
He's been to a couple of Pro Bowls, if I'm not mistaken. I think, right? Kenny?
Yeah, he 17.5 million a year. He signed his actually 2 years ago in August of 15. Agents do not like to go back more than 2 years. Clubs will try to stick deals down their throat of the agent if it's favorable to them. In fact, I know one agent told me that a club went back 4 years, and the agent said, "Would you stop? I'm like, what are you doing? Like, are you out of your mind?" It was. But look, if an inexperienced agent says yes, you can't look. In negotiations, you've done deals on your own. people will try anything if they could get over on people.
Yep.
Early on. Hey, look, if you say yes, it's and then you go, no, I'm not doing that. And they go, okay. How about this?
Right. Agents are trying to go back 15 years for their running backs when Steven Jackson got paid that huge. The market went down ever since. In fact, when Todd Gurley signed that huge deal from the Rams a couple of years ago, everybody was like, oh, the running back market is back. Look at all that. And it was still not as much money as Steven Jackson had got like 10 years earlier from the Rams.
Gurley's guaranteed signing was ridiculous.
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah.
He had an arthritic knee. They never should have done that deal.
Exactly.
The Rams
but the money running backs were getting 10 years prior was amazing. If you go back and look at some of the contracts,
well, Peterson, Adrian
period. Oh, and Adrian, of course, yeah.
Oh, his deal was incredible.
Yeah.
But then it flattened out. Then Gurley's deal got done.
Yep.
And he was done at 26 years old. It's a shame.
Yeah.
He got a monster deal. And then the McCaffrey deal pissed off a lot of teams. That was an incredible deal that I think Joel Siegel did. That was one of those where they had 2 years left. They had 2 tags. Like, why are you doing this deal?
I know, but still, like, he's not
Good
just
for him,
I mean, the guy was catching like 60 to 70 balls. It was
true. But here's the problem: because of the injury rate to running backs, here you go. The last 2 years, he's been hurt.
That's true. That's fair. That is fair.
All right. So the deals that you would look at: a Grady Jarrett, 3 years, $50.5 million, just under $17 million a year.
Right.
Kenny Clark, 4 for $70, $17.5 million per year. That was 2 years ago. Vita Vea, who just did his, in fact, he did his 4 for 71, $17.75 million during the playoffs. You really see that?
Yeah, that is rare.
Yeah, and he was eligible because he was over 3 years, so he's such an underrated pass rusher, really good football player.
Yes, agree.
And then the last one you would look at for Hargrave would be Jonathan Allen, 4 years, $73 million, $18.15 million APY.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be the four. To me, the baseline would be Kenny Clark's deal.
Right.
Now
17 and a half. Mm-hmm.
Right, 17 and a half. The question is because, and again, Hargrave is 29. He's shown no slowing down. And as you said, and it's a great point, what if the tape's better, the pressure numbers are better, the sack numbers are better? If he blows it up, the Eagles will rue that day that they didn't extend it.
Mm-hmm.
I see this thing get extended. If it doesn't get extended before September, or like they did a bunch of deals, as you know, right before the opening week. Really, they did it before their first game against Atlanta last season.
Right.
So he turns 30 in Hargrave does in February of next year. So in less than a year,
mm-hmm.
I'd be shocked if this deal doesn't get done either during the season or before the season. It just would not be like the Eagles to wait on a guy who clearly is a very good football player.
Right. Speaking of Drew, I believe Drew represents Javon Hargrave, correct?
Yeah. Rosenhaus does. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, no, I agree. And like you said, somewhere between 17 and a half and 18 and a half is probably his neighborhood. Again, I think it would be another 3 or 4 year type deal with a 3-year structure. Now,
actually, 2 year. They wouldn't do it 2. I can't.
Yeah, you're right. You're probably 2 year structure. Yeah,
want to get out after 2 years.
Could get out after 2. Right.
I think that would be the smartest thing.
And now, 11 or 12 dummy years? You think added to the end?
Yeah, exactly. It is unbelievable to me that they do. They're not the only team that does this, but not very many do it. They'll on a 1 year deal for $2 million. They'll still do dummy years. What is that? What? Do they really? I don't know. I get because the cap is going to go up so big, at least the teams think it is, right?
Right.
That they just figure that, okay, we'll just tie up our future years with money. The player will theoretically still be on the roster, but you'll see the dummy years in the future. You go, why did you do this on a 1 year deal for a couple million?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway.
So his cap number this year is already at 17.8. So you would have to think it would go up a little bit this year if you got an extension, but probably next year, which is one of the first.
No, you can lower it. No, you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they want.
No, you can because his salary is $12.75 million. They literally can do the same thing that they did last year. So he restructured last year in March of 21.
Right.
They took his base salary, which was significant, they took just about 12 million of it and changed it to a signing bonus, or converted to a signing bonus, added 3 dummy years on the back.
Right.
They could do it again. He's got a $12.75 million base salary. His cap number, as you said, is 17.8 million. If they want to lower it, take a big chunk of that salary, convert it to a signing bonus. Now you're going to have really big, you're going to extend it out in terms of dummy years.
Right.
But you can do that. In fact, that's what we said the last time we talked about it. It would surprise us if they didn't either restructure or extend, because why would you want him playing on that cap number when you know he's going to be here for the future? It can be a smart restructure.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. As just to move away from Hargrave now, but stay on the D line, what do you think becomes it's just because we thought for 2 years now, Jason Kelce was signing retirement contracts, but he
so did everyone.
So did everybody. And it sort of feels like this 1-year deal was just not retirement, but at least his last year for Fletcher Cox with the Eagles. Let's say he has a good year, not a great one, not a let's say he has like a 5-sack year, which is still a pretty good year for an interior defensive tackle.
Well, the pressure numbers are good. Like the pressure numbers.
That's what I'm trying to say.
That shows effort.
Good pressure.
By the way, pressures show effort. That's what I was told. That's how you evaluate pressures.
Yep.
Like as much as Pro Football Focus, I like to defend them. I'm a big fan. I've been a fan of this forever. I don't agree with everything they do, particularly quarterback grading. But when every D-line coach I know, every defensive coach loves their pressure numbers, because you can't by tape, unless you're charting. Coaches don't have time to chart every play and decide whether that's a real pressure or not. So they use Pro Football Focus pressures, and they think they're pretty legitimate. I know Greg made fun of him. Cosell made fun of him on our show, on our pregame show, because he wants to know how close the player gets. It's fair. How close do you have to get to a quarterback to call that a pressure? But the coaches I've talked to say they're pretty legitimate. They love their gradings for pressures.
Right.
So if the pressure numbers are great, if they're real, and it matches up to tape, and even if he only gets 4 sacks, but it shows tremendous effort by pressures, I'm all for bringing them back.
Yeah.
I as we said in the last show, 14 million for a fading player and he turns 32 in December. I didn't see it, but
that's the difficult precedent that they sort of set now. If he has a better year than last year, which shouldn't be that difficult, and he wants to come back on a 1-year deal, now you got to give him a year at plus 14, like over the 14 million that he signed for, because he's theoretically would deserve a pay raise for playing better, or at least would get it on the market. So I don't know. It's a kind of an interesting situation that they've created here as far as his future. Like they do, like Jason's a great example. Jason plays at a high level, one of the highest levels. So when he comes back on 1-year deals, he doesn't come back on hometown discount 1-year deals. He comes back as one of the highest paid centers in the league.
By the way, he was the highest paid center, and I don't know if it's changed. In March 11th, when he executed the contract,
right,
he became the highest paid center in the NFL at 14.25 million. Now, because his contract was technically up by the dummy, the poison pill, he kind of had leverage here, and they've always done right by him because he's such an elite player. This is what he's doing, and he turns 35 in November.
Amazing.
Maybe folks, you could bring up centers that played this well this late in their career. I can't think of one. Maybe there are. I mean, I know Jackie Slater.
Kevin Mawai played pretty well into his mid-30s, right?
He did. With the fact, I remember the Eagles they actually talked about internally. This is back when he was playing 20 years, whatever it was. But they actually thought about signing him, and they once they heard how much he wanted, it was never any. They didn't even call the agent. There's ways of finding out how much players want.
Sure.
But this is a long time ago. But with Kelce, you got to do it. You can't insult the guy by trying to give him like a 1-year deal for 10 million. He's absolutely worth it. Any position, like Jason Peters, he still was good in his mid-30s, but he was not Jason Kelce elite. I'm sorry, not at 34 years old.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Trying to think of some other centers. I'd have to go back and look at like Dermontti Dawson from the Steelers and see how long he played. Mike Webster from the Steelers, see how long he played.
Sure.
I mean, a little bit of a different era.
Money was different then.
Was especially so for Mike Webster. But who are some other? Olin Kreutz. He was a pretty good center, right?
Right, but not.
I don't think he played at elite level into the 30s, though. No.
we'd have to poll. We're definitely going to talk to our friend Trey Thomas soon.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he could remember centers during his day that were really, really good. The Jason is pretty much elite. And the crazy thing was, this is what makes his rise to this level so surprising.
Mm-hmm.
When they made him available in 2016, I think it was, if I'm calling correctly, 6 years ago. And I guess the tape wasn't good enough, so teams didn't want him. Whatever the case, this is 6 years ago, so I don't remember the exact scenario.
Mm-hmm.
No one thought he was done, but they just thought it was this big. The fade was starting, and maybe he'll play 2 or 3 more years, and that this would end it.
Right.
I think that he could play this at this level with the injuries he suffered. The guy's mental toughness is just, I don't know how you explain. And it's not like he's playing good or very good.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing at an elite level. Now I understand center, that the way you judge center is a little different, but by the way you judge or evaluate centers, he's elite still.
Right. Now Alex Mack just retired, right? He was a 7-time Pro Bowler. He made a Pro Bowl last year for the 49ers at 35 or 36 years old. I think 35. He turned 36 during the season. So that's pretty good. Does he have Hall of Fame 7-time Pro Bowler?
Mack's really good. Now, that's a great one. He just retired.
Yeah.
He was in fact, he had some historic deals with Cleveland, and then they had a contract squab. Then he wanted out of there.
Right.
But no, you're right. Alex Mack he's right up there with Kelsey. He's a little bit older than Jason. He turns 37 in November.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's a guy that, and it's funny because when he signed his last extension, it was pretty light because he was, at 33, how much are you really going to pay the guy? And now he's turns 36. But Alex Mack, I think, would be the only one I could think of that rivals Jason.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Alex Mack, last couple of years, though he was good, I don't think he's in Kelsey's ability and athleticism. And for a guy who's not the biggest guy in the world, his technique and his ability to move guys with technique, and his agility, his lateral agility for a guy in his mid-30s is just ridiculous.
Yes, very much so. All right, finishing off defensive line. Anybody else? Is this the last real true year of Brandon Graham's contract, or does he still have one more left?
This is the last year. This is the last year of his deal. Yeah.
Okay.
This is the last year.
All right. What's his cap chart? His cap number is pretty big.
His cap number is he got it restructured. See, he took a restructuring last September.
Uh-huh.
His cap number is $9.4 million.
This year, 9.4?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not bad. I thought it was bigger than that. So does he
double
have
check
future cap numbers that are enormous?
Well, he's got a lot of dummy years. There's
but usually the dummy years have a cap number, but that's not exorbitant. I'm wondering if
we're
going to be if he's going to be on the books for like $25 million when he's retired.
I'm right. His cap number is, see, this one we have to find out from our buddy Nick Polk how this would work with if he retires after the season. How's the acceleration work?
Mm-hmm.
Is it all into 1 year? Are they able to post June 1 it? We have to find out. I'm sure they can post June 1 it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're in based on what I'm seeing, there's about 20 million in dead money after the season.
Right.
If he retires. So I'll tell you what, and we put this out like a month ago. Apparently he looked really good from his Achilles injury in their OTAs. I don't know how much.
Yeah. I'm
very anxious to see what he looks like in training camp. Because he's another one like Kelsey. And really Jason Peters, I know he had injuries, and Lane Johnson, obviously. These guys, and Malcolm Jenkins, who he's here, they're at a different level of competitiveness. I don't think this could be taught. Unless, and obviously you could, and Ertz when he was here, there's just something about these guys, about their competitiveness, which you can't. I don't know if you can learn it from the younger guys when you're a younger guy. Now you're an older guy, and you teach the younger kids. But there's just something about these guys' competitiveness, which I don't know that you could be taught. Your will to compete. And never accept that you can't be great until your body says, I just can't play anymore. Right. There's just something about that.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, let's move away from the D-line. We'll get into some other contracts on defense. First, we've been keep telling you about our friends at Free Stone Farms, they got the all-new strain menu with awesome CBD at reasonable prices. Remember, they got the tropical tasting Bayox, clocks in at 24.1%. Everything, all their hemp flower, grown in the garden state with organic inputs, nothing synthetic, from farm to jar. So use that promo code ITB to get 20% off at checkout at freestonefarmscbd.com. That's promo code ITB for 20% off at checkout on freestonefarmscbd.com. All right, the next contract we're going to discuss is an interesting one. It's Darius Slay, who just made the Pro Bowl. And so it's weird. Him and Hargrave, right? They both come in the same year. They both kind of have, okay first years. I mean, I think some people were disappointed with Slay's first year, and then Hargrave obviously had the injury. But then last year, boom. Hargrave makes the Pro Bowl. Slay makes the Pro Bowl. He had a couple of he was the only playmaker on defense for the team last year. I think he had 3 touchdowns.
Were both named to it originally, or were they replacements?
I believe they were both original Pro Bowlers. Yes.
Okay, because the only way you get a Pro Bowl bonus, you have to be named originally. You cannot be a replacement for any reason to get that. Just for everyone to understand.
Correct.
It's always important to note that, because I'm not going to say the player, but I think I might have talked about this once. This is going back many years ago. A guy who was with the Eagles, everyone would know the name. Guy was a big time player, an offensive player. I ran into the guy in NovaCare one time, and I said, "Hey man, so who'd you vote for in the Pro Bowl?" Because players vote for it. He goes, "I don't vote, man. It's a scam." Why do you say that? It's like, because so many guys get in who don't deserve it. I don't agree with it, man. He goes, "I give it to the PR staff to vote for it. Just fill it in. Fill in whoever you want."
That's not any better or more productive. I mean, I get that.
I know. I didn't agree with it, but
yeah.
What am I going to say to the guy? Like, "Oh, you're wrong." I was like, "Okay, that's what you believe." But it is important to distinguish whether the guy earned it by getting in, voted in by everyone. But the only thing is, though, even when the guys make it on as an original Pro Bowler for that year, sometimes it's a popularity contest. That's what the guy was talking about. He goes, too many guys get in who don't deserve it, because players know, man. Players know who's
no doubt about it. It's ridiculous that there are guys that make All Pro that don't make Pro Bowl. I mean, that to me, nothing grinds my gears. I mean, I know there's a billion things wrong in the world that above that, but like, just as an NFL reporter, nothing grinds my gears than seeing somebody make All Pro who was not named Pro Bowl, because All Pro is more accurate. It seems like more objective. It's the best at the positions.
Right.
And Pro Bowl does seem like more of a good old fraternity. Like, "Oh, you're my friend, I'll vote for maybe guys trying to help other guys get paid or something like that."
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know, but anyway, I understand. They're the fans vote for players. I always thought that the executives, the people who grade the tape, are the ones who really should have the highest weight of this thing. But I digress.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So Darius Slay, let's discuss his contract, because unlike Hargrave, Darius Slay is a little bit older, so you have to kind of be careful with what you're going to do here. But he plays at a high level, and he's probably their best overall player on defense. I think that's fair to say, right?
Oh, well, Slay was really good last season. Like, he is, and he could really run, man. When he came in, I remember talking to a friend who worked for the Lions then. He was long, he's around 6 feet, maybe just slightly low, but he was, whatever the tape showed, I guess on tape that year when he came out in 13, he was one of the fastest corners for that draft, for the 13 draft. And he was really good. And we know he had issues with Matt Patricia. He didn't make, he didn't hide it. And I remember talking, I know. Well, I remember they said that they thought a amicable divorce was in line. The Lions felt at that time. To trade him. Remember, the Eagles the year before they got him, they tried to trade for him, but they couldn't get it done by the trade deadline, and then they got it done 2 years ago. So he signed a 3-year extension 2 years ago. 3 years, $50.5 million, just under $17 million, $16.83 million per season. It held up pretty well. Now, obviously, guys are going to want to beat that. They did. Before we get to the comparables, because he's actually had 2 restructures. So they did what they always do.
He's averaging 1 restructure a year.
It's true. Right. Sure. So they do what they always do. They lower the base salary significantly this season to $1.12 million. Because of the signing bonus, he still has not a super high cap number. It's 9.371 million. But here's the problem. Because of two restructures, as you mentioned, the cap number for next year is absurd. His base salary is 17 million for 23 because he's 2 years left. His cap number is a unhealthy 26.01 million. And because of the two restructures, he has 3 dummy years through 26. So that just, you can't handle that thing. So the question is, it's just not acceptable to have 26. Look, you could lower the cap number by doing what they did with his base salary in 17. You could lower it to the veteran minimum, convert to a signing bonus, which is fully guaranteed. All signing bonuses are. And that way you could lower the cap number, but you're going to keep extending this out. And you got to be careful with older players. Right. He turns 32 in January. Got to be careful.
So now this is a situation where I could see, Adam, them waiting a little bit like they did with Jernigan, like they did with Alshon, making it go into, and again, that could work against you, but for a player of this age, you want to be completely sure, and maybe waiting until October, early November, if you want to get them. Get them.
They're big on November. Like they've done over the last 7 or 8 years. We looked this up. They've done a bunch in November. You mentioned Jeffrey, Jernigan. They've done others. And they've done a bunch in September.
Didn't TJ Edwards last year get his in November?
That one, was it, I'll look up.
I thought it was already in the middle of the season.
Yeah, Goddard got his right after Ertz was traded.
Right.
TJ Edwards, I will tell you in 30 seconds, actually probably 5 seconds.
And again, I think a lot of that November was because there was a deadline there for what you could do with the.
Okay. That would make sense why. That's a good point. That I do want to get that clarified.
November 22nd is when TJ Edwards got his extension. Yeah.
Yep. His 1-year extension. There's no guarantee. By the way, there's no guaranteed money in this year. They put it in last year. That goes on your point, the base salary and the signing bonus. So there's no base salary. He's not guaranteed. Look, based on me looking at the breakdown, he's not guaranteed to make the team. So I'm sure he will.
Next year, you mean?
No, 22. This is it. No, they got the guarantees in year 1. Remember, he got a 1-year extension.
I'm surprised he's not kind of, usually when a guy goes into, like Zach Ertz, goes into the last year of a deal without any guaranteed money, they're not happy.
Got it. No, he got it last year. He got it all in year 1. He got it on his last year of his deal was last season.
I know. I totally get that. I'm not saying he didn't get the money he deserved. I'm saying guys don't like to go and play in a year where there's no long-term security without any further guaranteed money. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the guarantee was so small. It was just around 2 million. Now, on your point, they could have moved it. Okay, they could have. The only option he could have had, Edwards, is to, instead of giving him a signing bonus, fully guarantee the $965,000 in year 2. You're going to get cut for that. I mean, but now there's offset language. He'll still make it if they would have cut him. The Eagles would still owe it to him unless he got signed by another team.
Right.
But he got $2 million fully guaranteed. On the signing bonus, 1.135 million. Look at my Excel file here.
Who represents Slay? Do you remember?
You mean wait, Edwards or Slay?
Darius Slay.
Another Drew Rosenhaus client. Yes.
Another Drew Rosenhaus. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I think I was probably confusing. When you said he could be cut this year, you were talking about
Edwards. Yeah, this is all.
All right, I was thinking Slay, and I got my T's.
No, because you brought up TJ Edwards.
You're right.
Him get extended on November 21st. Yeah. Right. So with Edwards, they basically gave him $2 million last year, fully guaranteed. This year is $965,000. So they could cut him, not owe him anything. No,
sure,
because he's their best run stopping linebacker. I would assume he'll make the team, but he's not a lock. Listen, when you're, he was a guy that was an undrafted free agent. I know he could play on 3 downs if you need him to, but he's best as a rundown guy. So this is something to keep an eye on because they got a lot of linebackers all of a sudden.
That's great for the people who love to do the 53-man roster.
A lot of people are doing it now.
Yeah. Because sometimes we get surprised. Like last year, we were taken by surprise, although we shouldn't have been, but we were, when Jordan Howard got cut, but then it made all the sense in the world. They knew there would be no market for him. They could bring him back on the practice squad. They weren't even going to use him. So even though he had this great camp and didn't even play in the final, but every indication was he was on the team and made the 53. There was some second level thinking going on by the Eagles front office there that in retrospect should have seemed obvious, I think, to us. I think Bo Wolf of the Athletic did a great job of figuring that one out on his projection. But this is a guy, Edwards, where they might play that roster game thinking, he's a one down linebacker. He's
one or two.
One or two, yeah, depending on what you're facing. And could you find another one fairly easily, veteran? Yeah, you probably could. I mean, the Eagles, they brought in Daniel Ellerbe for a couple of weeks, and he helped them win a Super Bowl.
Wow!
So just by playing, first and second down.
Why did they bring? Who got hurt that year? 17.
Well, that's a great question because Hicks was already hurt. Yeah. So they were down to Michael Kendricks, Nigel Bradham, and God, who else? Why can't I think?
It was okay. Here you go. It was Kendricks,
Camus,
Hill,
mm-hmm.
Nate Gary, the legendary Nate Gary, and Joe Walker, who's still bouncing around.
Joe Walker. I think that they were just trying to add depth to that position at the time because Kendricks was now going from backup to starter, and they had never really added somebody after that. So they were just trying to get as much depth
Hicks
as they could.
Yeah, Hicks got hurt. He was an IR. Here's a name we've never mentioned. We've done Aziz Shitu, but do you remember Randall Goforth, young man?
I do remember Randall Goforth. Yes, I do.
Vaguely, what position was he?
That I don't remember. Safety, I want to say.
Well, he was number 35, so it was either a fullback.
I think he was a safety. Now, now that you think, I wonder if the Eagles were doing some second level thinking there. Because if you remember, who did the Eagles play in the first round of the playoffs that year? It was the second round.
The Super Bowl year? Atlanta.
Yeah,
Atlanta.
Right. Why did they play Atlanta?
Well, the Eagles, because the Eagles were what do you mean? Why did they play?
They were the number 1 seed. Right. And why is it the Falcons that they wound up? Do you remember who the Falcons beat in the first round?
Oh gosh, I don't remember who they beat.
The Falcons went on the road and beat the Rams in the first round. Okay. That's how they earned the trip to Philadelphia to play the Eagles.
I remember that game.
I wonder if the Eagles were trying to do the Rams, that was their first year of McVay. Okay, 2017. And he had turned them around.
No, it was 18. McVay's first year was 18. I'm almost certain of it.
No, it's definitely 2017.
Was it?
Yeah, because they won. They won.
Oh, you're right. No, you're right. Because they got in the Super. They made the Super Bowl year 2. The Rams did.
Right. But what was the Rams? What was the Rams' identity in 2000? Why was Jared Goff and McVay? What were they really?
Gurley. It was the Gurley show.
Exactly. They were a Todd Gurley. I wonder if the Eagles brought in Ellerbe thinking that they were going to need a little bit more beef defensively in the front 7 to go up against Gurley in that running attack.
Right. That's a good call. Yeah. In fact, Ellerbe was known with the Ravens as a run guy. Yeah. And he was at the end of his career. It wasn't that he was super old. He just was worn down.
Right.
And I just remember when they signed him, like, man, they really are scratching the bottom here because this guy's almost done. But the guy that would always stick around, I think he was on and off the Eagles roster for 5 years, correct me if I'm wrong, was Najee Good.
Yeah, He was a Chip Kelly linebacker who just happened to stick around. And then he went and played for the Packers and stuck around for them for a little bit after the Eagles.
Yeah, he was a good story, was a good backup.
Yeah, definitely. Wait, was that last year for Kyle Shanahan as the offensive coordinator for the Falcons that year? Because they were a run heavy team. They might have been a run heavy team as well.
It would be.
Because I don't think it was the next year was when they played in the season opener was the first year of Sarkisian as their.
It would have been 17. Okay, I'm guessing without looking up that Shanahan and McVay came in at 17. The reason is because I'm pretty certain Shanahan made the Super Bowl 2 years after he started in 19. And as you said, and you're right, 100%, that McVay made the Super Bowl in the second year in 18.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they both came in. I'm fairly certain of the same year.
Right. Yeah. The Rams were 11-5 that year. Falcons were 10-6. Remember, the Falcons got off to a slow start. It was the Super Bowl hangover. They had lost, and then they picked it up at the end of the year. They beat the Rams 26-13 in LA. Sarkisian was the offensive coordinator that year. Yeah. And I remember he would run. So I just wonder if that's why the Eagles wound up, because didn't Devontae Freeman have a pretty good year that year? Yeah, he had like 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. I'm looking now.
He was really good.
Coleman and Devontae Freeman. Yeah, so they weren't afraid to run either. So it made sense for the Eagles to kind of beef up a little bit at linebacker. All right, let's get this back to Darius Slay. So we agree. He deserves if you want him on the team, and you should, because they really don't have a bunch of young corners ready to come up and
correct. They have nowhere to go.
Yeah, they should at least give Darius something that gives him 2 years of guarantees. I would 2.
Yeah, I agree. I would do another 3-year deal, fully guarantee the first 2 years, and third year you could, for the agents, like the jumbo third year, it makes it the APY bigger. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You just got to be able to get out after the first 2 years, because at 34, you got to think the guy's not going to have a lot left.
Right.
Then he turns 32 in February. So to me, a 3-year deal with a 2-year structure. And here it is again. 23, the cap number is 26 million. You can't play on that cap number. You got to lower it.
Yeah.
We don't know what the cap will be in 23, and that's the first year of the big TV money. So we look forward to seeing that. Now, so let's take it down here. Who are the comparable contracts? Now, as you said, he's older than all the young guys who got deals. They're all young.
Right.
Jair Alexander, who negotiated by John Thornton. Might remember John Thornton, the
former defensive tackle for the
Philly.
Yeah, and from Philly. Yeah,
in the Bengals. Yep. Denzel Ward, Jalen Ramsey, Marshawn Lattimore, Marlon Humphrey. His dad Bobby, you might remember him, played running back for the Broncos.
Sure.
David Howard, Tre'Davious White. They're all much younger than Darius Slay. So that's where it gets complicated. The APYs are fairly comparable, but you got to be careful because Slay's older. So
right.
To me,
so that's why you can't give him too many years, but the APY has got to be up there with these guys.
Well, okay. So let's start with Alexander. 4 years, 84 million, 21 million average per season. Now this is his first extension. He's arguably the NFL's best corner. So the Slay, to me, I don't see him getting anything like that. Now, there are a couple, though, that he might be able to get here as we go down the list here. Denzel Ward, 4 years, 81 million, 20.25 million APY. Jalen Ramsey, this deal is held up really well. He got a monster contract. The Rams, by the way, they're the agent's delight. They do incredible contracts for players. Agents like it, who have rival players, because they go, great, well, my guy can get paid because they just did this deal. 5 years, 100 million, 20 million APY. The guarantee structure is phenomenal. The early year guarantees are like, he's got what the advanced guarantees where if he's on the roster this year, his base salary next year is fully guaranteed. That helps you with the escrow, the money that clubs have to pull aside for guaranteed money, because you avoid the funding rule, but you're still going to have to pay this. You're guaranteeing a year in advance. Right. So it's signing. This is where when you sign a deal, that's where the money's got to be put aside if it's fully guaranteed. So they avoided that. But Marshawn Lattimore deal was a monster. 5 years, 97.6 million, 19.5 million APY. And then, of course, that one bettered Marlon Humphrey's deal at 5 years, 97.5 million, 19.5 million APY. Xavier Howard, he got a restructure increase because he was pissed off at all these guys were beating his deal. So the Dolphins did right by him. Good job by his agent, David Canner.
He's a good player. In Miami. Xavier Howard's a really good player.
He is. Although, Cosell found some tape for him when he didn't give very good effort. Yeah, it was just, I remember we were talking to Greg about it. He goes, yeah, he's a great player, but you see some tape where you go, man, where's the effort on this play?
Yeah. Hey, listen, Greg watches more. Whenever I do see the Dolphins play, he's
really good. No, I agree.
Center for their second.
No, but he's just pointing out, he goes, look, this guy wants a new deal, but here are a couple of players, that I found. But anyway, 2 years, 36 million, 18 million APY. See, this is the one I would use.
Yeah.
Where Howard is younger than
Slay,
but you need a short-term deal because you have to be very careful. You got to be able to get out of a deal when a guy's older,
right?
You don't want to put yourself in that kind of situation. Now, Xavier Howard is turning 29 on July 4th. So that's just 29, where Slay turns 32, and yeah, he's significantly younger. 2.5 years is in NFL years younger, no doubt. So I would use, if I'm the Eagles, my comparable would be Howard's deal, 2 years, $36 million. He just did the deal last year at $18 million. Now Tre'Davious White, 4 years, $69 million, 17.25 million APY. See, Slay's deal was just under 17 when he did the 3-year extension in 2020, in March of 2020. He's going to want at least 18 million. That to me, if I'm Rosenhaus, that would be the baseline.
That's my baseline. I agree. I agree.
I'd want more than that.
I think 20 is fair. I think that 2 years where he's making 20 a year is pretty fair.
Now, okay, on that, let me move this forward. When do you do the deal? If you're going to, okay, I'm going to act like you're the agent, right?
Okay.
If I'm the Eagles,
I wait because who's going to reset the market from now until November? Jair just got paid. He's one of the best. Denzel Ward just got paid. I'm not really worried about, just trying to think if there's a young corner who might get an extension. It's probably not going to happen in the middle of the year. Not a lot of teams. There's just not a plethora of extensions that happen while the year is going on. You'll see like 5 or 6, but not
many, right? Because they want to wait till March. Once you start the season, you might as well wait till March.
Right. So I wouldn't wait too long. I would probably do, again, late October, early November. I would already be having the conversation with Drew, saying, just like we did with Timmy, just like we did with some of your other guys, and maybe even Javon. We will do something. Just give us some time here. Let's work our cap out. And, after our 53 is settled and then we're in the season and we get closer to the deadline, we'll do something.
So the deal that I would use Howard as a baseline. The APY to me would be a fair APY, because he's older, would be between 19 and 20 million. And that's these were a lot easier to figure out than the previous show. Although I thought we appreciate, by the way, we got blogged like 3 or 4 of them. One was theheavy.com.
Yeah.
But we do appreciate that. The
reason why I would go 20, Adam, is because when you look at the reason why I'd say 20 is more than fair is because over the last 5 years, there's only 1 year that he really didn't perform. That was 2 years ago. He was on a disastrous team, a disastrous defense, a disastrous culture. I mean, we don't have to go back and revisit the 2020 Eagles. Sure. I mean, he had just walked into a buzzsaw, and as the 4 years before that, he was good, made the Pro Bowl, or 3 years before that, and then the year after, he's back to the same level, made the Pro Bowl. So that 1 year just looks like an anomaly to me. I mean, if you really look at the last 5 years, he's been a Pro Bowler for 4 of the 4 normal ones. So unless he just all of a sudden has a terrible September, October coming up, which I doubt, I think he's pretty legit.
And they put a lot on their corners, like because they're going to be a hybrid scheme this year, as we understand. They're going to play a lot of 3-4, way more than last year. Right. They're basically a 5-2 defense. And look, he shows up, he'll play hurt. He's very competitive, as you know.
Yep.
And this has been a guy they were after for years. They finally got him. And I to end this, I would probably say between 19 and 20 million. It'll end up between whenever it gets done, if it gets done, which I think is highly probable, based where he's at, and because he's still very good. He hasn't slowed down yet, but there's a team study this stuff. They'll go back for like 30 or 40 years. When is the baseline of where players start losing it by per position? I know Rick Spielman's team, when Rick was the GM of the Vikings, they did a study. I need to ask him that the next time we have him on. We'll ask if he knows corner. I'd heard there was at least one position they did it with. They may have done them all, but I know teams generally have this information where every player has an age where he starts fading, and it's got to be early 30s because it's still a speed position to a certain extent. You got to be able to run a corner.
Yeah.
And I'd be way careful. I know Slay's been really good, but you got to be able to get out of it by the time the guy's 33.
Definitely. I'll end it with this as we move on to James Bradberry, because he signed a 1-year deal. But the big thing on James is that he's not old not young, but he's not old. And this scheme is supposedly best for him. I could see him parlaying if he has a good year. I could see the Eagles wanting to wrap him up for maybe 2 or 3 going forward, because again, like, this is not a position they were able to address. Well, they were able to. It's not a position that they addressed in the draft this past year. They really didn't address it 2 years ago, other than Zach McPherson in the 4th round. So, as we talk about, until we're blue in the face, corner really is not a position that they've done a great job of draft and development. And here's a guy who may play well in your scheme, who's still young enough. You may want to consider adding 2 years to his contract sometime in November if you think
I can see
if he's excelling and doing well.
I would still, if you and I run the show, we're drafting a cornerback high. I don't care if we bring back Bradbury. I want a young corner they need a really good, talented outside corner who eventually will take. It's never too late to start looking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles have a history, particularly in the offensive defensive lines, of always looking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It's why they're generally competitive most years, because they're strong on the lines and they've got depth and they're relatively young. So Bradbury, with his contract, I could definitely see it by November if he's kicking butt. And he by the way, he turns 29 in August. That's my only issue. You've got a guy 29 and you got a guy at 31 who turns 32 in January.
Yeah.
They need to add corners next year who are young, and we'll see if these guys like Tay Gowan and the rest of the group,
right.
That's
why I would give it till November, of course.
You want to see that Jimmy Moreland.
I want to see how Bradbury performs in the scheme. I want to see every day of practice on how guys like McPherson or Tay Gowan or whoever makes the team are doing. But I think even if you're going to draft a corner high, knowing the difficulty some teams have of getting that guy on the field as a rookie immediately, it might make sense to have a guy like Bradbury extended 2 more years just to make sure you've got a pretty good cornerback group as you're trying to groom another guy. So we'll say that's just something to keep in mind, because he was on a reasonable one. It wasn't like a Fletcher Cox 1-year deal where oh my God, you have to bring him back at even more than 14.
No.
But the comical. He signed a good type of deal that you can give an extension to without like breaking your back.
Well, here's the funny thing. He signed a 1-year deal for $7.25 million fully guaranteed. Guess how many dummy years there are?
I'm going to say 4.
3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 4. Good call. Yeah.
Nice.
23 through 26. Yeah. Nice. It's fun. He just arbitrarily guessed 4. It's just funny. Lane Johnson, I think it's through 29, the dummy years. I got to look it up. Maybe I wonder what the NFL record is in restructures.
That's a good question. If it's not Lane or Zach Ertz, then it's got to be I don't know. I can't imagine who else. It would be. It's either coming from the Eagles or Saints, though. You know that. So
I mean, it's unbelievable. He signs. Lane Johnson signed a 4-year extension 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Structures the year after that, and the year after that. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And 28. Not okay. My information is 28. He's
2028.
Yep.
Man.
Voids. His dummy years. Excuse me. His dummy years.
Gotcha. Yeah. Voidable years. All right. Good stuff, Adam. I really actually enjoyed this contract series more than even last year's. Last year's we did a really good one too, but this one was fun. Just going through the market and trying to figure things out. So hope everybody enjoyed it. That'll finish our 2-part contract series for the Philadelphia Eagles. Next time we talk to you will be Monday morning. So I hope everybody has a great July 4th holiday. Stay safe, enjoy yourselves, and you'll hear from us again soon. All right. Want to thank our producer, Tyler Strasser, doing a great job as always. And we want to thank you for flying with us inside the bird.